there is a debate in this country about what role parents have in the education of their kids. And I think in Florida, with our Parents' Bill of Rights, with the bill we're going to sign here today, other bills we're going to sign later, we believe parents not only have a role, they have a fundamental role to be involved in the education of their kids. And that's how it's going to be in the state of Florida. We reject those that say parents not only shouldn't be involved, there's some say parents don't even have a right to know what is being taught in this. That there's actually some places where you can make serious decisions for these kids and not inform the parents about it. And so that is not going to fly in the state of Florida. We are going to make sure that parents have a seat at the table and that we protect their rights, because nobody is more invested in the proper well-being of kids than the parents themselves. And the good thing is, as we've seen this debate, most teachers in Florida want the parents involved. I know there's other parts of the country there, and I'm not saying that's true 100% in Florida, but most of them really want the parents involved. Most of them want to be focusing on education. I don't think most want to indoctrinate. I mean, we've had this debate about the education with this sexuality in like kindergarten. Like, that's inappropriate. I don't think most kindergarten teachers in Florida want to be doing that. But you do have some people that get elected to these school boards who are ideological. They're backed by special interests, and they have certain ideas that are not necessarily in the best interest of the kids and the parents, and even, I would argue, the teachers. So I just want to say I think a lot of folks in Florida are doing the right thing. And when we open schools, for example, even though the union sued me to try to close the schools, the teachers, by and large, wanted to get back because they knew how important it was. And so we appreciate that, and we appreciate their interest in working with our parents. And so what we're going to be doing today is sign probably the strongest curriculum transparency legislation in the country. And what this is going to do is it is going to require transparency with respect to the materials that are being taught in classrooms or that are available in school libraries. And so if that's something that is going to be used, then that's something that a parent would have the right to understand and know that's going out there. It also provides an ability for parents to review this and lodge objections if they find the material to either deviate from state standards or to just be inappropriate. And unfortunately, we've seen some books in some of these libraries. I mean, you're talking about kids in middle school. Some of the stuff that has ended up there, incredibly disturbing stuff. And again, as an adult, you're free to consume what you want. So this is, sometimes people say, if you don't have every single book under the sun in the school library that you want to not have banned books. That's not true. We have the ability to choose what is appropriate for different age groups. Adults have access to what they want to have access to, but when you're talking about some of these kids, particularly these young kids, to have some of this really graphic stuff in there is not in the best interest of the families and of the students. And so parents are going to have the ability to have their voice heard. And it also sets curriculum standards in terms of teacher professional development and the curriculum, making sure those align with required instruction and state standards. So for example, we don't have Common Core, we don't have critical race theory. We want to make sure, again, we're doing education, not indoctrination. And so this is going to be a really significant win for parents in the state of Florida, and it will really continue to show people that we are for our kids getting that good education, but not being subject to indoctrination. Here's the thing, this is important. You have some groups that want to take away classic books like To Kill a Mockingbird, but they want things like Gender Queer, a Memoir, which is a cartoon-style book with graphic images of children performing sexual acts. That is wrong. That has no place in the schools. They want to eliminate Of Mice and Men, but Lawn Boy, a book containing explicit passages of pedophilia, is somehow accepted as being okay. And so parents understand when they see this. They understand how to blow the whistle on this. And I think we just need to make sure that they're equipped to be able to do what needs to be done to defend the education of their kids. So we're excited about this legislation. Sunlight is the best disinfectant when you're talking about it. And when you see some of this stuff, and again, I don't think most teachers want to do this, but how they want to do this, but how this curriculum comes to be. There's certain companies that do it, there's school boards do certain things, and so there's a whole lot of moving parts. So what ends up being in that classroom or in that library, we don't necessarily have, the parent doesn't necessarily have control, but at that point, once it's there or is going to be proposed, you have the opportunity to review. There's procedures that'll be in place, and if it violates state standards, if it's not consistent with what we've set out under Florida law, then the parent can prevail. And so I think I think these are well-meaning reforms, and I think it's going to help give parents a lot of confidence that they can send their kids to school and they'll get an education, but they're not necessarily going to be indoctrinated to things that are very, very questionable. So I want to thank. And we've been able to do a lot in terms of education. Education Week rankings, the most recent one had Florida #3 for K-12 achievement. And that was not true many years ago in Florida, but I think because of a lot of the efforts that have been undertaken over the years, a lot of what we've done with Commissioner Corcoran over the last 3+ years have really made a difference. And so I think we lost less during COVID because we really focused on making sure the kids would be in school than many other states, and so we need to make sure that we build off a lot of the successes we have, and I think this is a big step towards that. So we've got a lot of folks who were involved in this legislation, and the Florida Senate was able to pass this under the leadership of Senate President Wilton Simpson, so I want to give him the ability to come up and say a few things.
And I see the signs here, and thank you, Governor. And I see the signs here about Year of the Parent. And we did so many things in the last few years to put parents in charge of their children's education. Last year, we passed the largest expansion of school choice in the country. Florida leads on that issue. People move to Florida because of our school choice stance. When you look at this bill, it brings transparency to our K-12 system. It's exactly what we need. When we put parents in charge, whether it's school choice, and we put parents in charge of what their children can read and learn at certain ages, we know the outcomes will be much better. So we really appreciate Senator Gruder's push this bill through this year. We have 2 other senators here. We cannot do these bills without our leadership team and the senators that are here with Senator Broder and Senator Wright. We really appreciate that, and our House partners that help push this through. But the other half of this bill, for the first time in the history of our state, we're going to have school board term limits. And so when you think about that, when you think about school term limits, we have 8-year term limits in the legislature, and folks will say, well, that may not be a good system because, you have, all of a sudden staff's in charge or people that have been there a long time are in charge rather than your members. When people say that, remember, we live in the greatest state at the greatest time, and we've had term limits now for over 20 years. And it has produced the budgets that we've had. It's produced these Parent Bill of Rights that we've produced the last few years. And it's produced the tax cuts and the freedom that Florida is. So thank you, Governor, for your great leadership during the pandemic. And thank you, guys. All right.
And I'm a big believer that our legislature should be term limited and school board. I'm also a big believer that members of Congress should be term limited. It would make a difference. And we actually, Florida certified an amendment under Article 5 of the Constitution prior to me becoming governor, but I supported. Other states have done it. We need more states to do this, to push forward term limits for members of Congress. It would make a big, big difference and would really, I don't see how you drain a swamp when you have people there for 30 or 40 years. It just doesn't work that way. So this is good for school board, and you don't want, little swamps in the school board either. But if we could look to see how term limits in Florida has worked and applied that to D.C., I mean, this country would be in much, much better shape. Okay, Rebecca, come on up here.
Hello. Thank you. This bill is so necessary because this is what we've been talking about at recent school board meetings is transparency. We've seen that there's supplemental material coming in from all different angles. I hadn't been involved with the school board prior to COVID. Got us paying attention. My first time calling into the school board because it was virtual to say, hey, please open the schools. Thanks, I'd be great with that. And then our first time showing up in person at the school board, I, along with 6 other mothers, was trespassed from the location due to not wearing a mask. That was our warm welcome, and this was after Governor DeSantis had said no fines or penalties for not mask wearing, and so here I was as a taxpayer in a tax-paying building, and they called law enforcement and effectively trespassed 7 of us from coming back for a whole year. We were not the only group of people they've done that to. And also silencing our voice from public comment. So since that year's been up, I have been there giving my public comment. But it's been an eye-opening experience to the lengths that they would assert their power, of course in that case over a mask and in response to a peaceful protest. But since COVID restrictions made us acutely aware of the role and power behind the school board, we're now paying attention to the school board, their meetings, agendas, and curriculum. And so many other concerns were coming to the surface now that we were paying attention. And it went far beyond the masks. One example was the books in the media center, like he mentioned, that were inappropriate for where they were. And my middle school son's friend, he had a book from the media center. It was an anime book. And he was showing him pictures from the book of highly sexualized images. And this is something I brought before our school board. This is not age appropriate, nor is it appropriate just to be in a school media center. My daughter in elementary school, she reported that she had read a book titled Red, a book about a crayon. And it was a red crayon, or it had a red label, but it was in fact a blue crayon. And so thinking I was being overly sensitive to the messaging, I went and looked it up to see the author's intent. But it really was a book written for that subliminal message of mistaken identity or an identity crisis. And for me, I was not comfortable with my daughter receiving a subliminal message that she may not be who she was created to be, or that she was in the wrong body, or that she was a design flaw. Subliminal messaging for kids that young, it normalizes them to believe that they're something other than the unique individual that God created them to be. And then I wondered what else is in the media center. And we started seeing CRT messaging and videos shown at schools and worksheets and writing prompts. The divisive messaging is not in line with the Florida standards, yet it was readily available to our children. And without our knowledge or consent or availability to view prior, seemingly it was coming in at all angles. And we noticed that they had many companies that they were using for these supplemental materials. This last September in this school year, our district voted to reinstate a mask policy after the Parental Bill of Rights was signed into law, now making this rule illegal. Knowing now it was illegal, they proceeded forward anyways. And with all that I'd learned since being involved in the schools and their inner workings, more than I'm even able to share at this moment, even a statement by our own superintendent saying that parents that don't mask or vaccinate their children is bad parenting, his words. Now to add that they were more than okay with breaking the law and disrespecting parental rights, I withdrew my children from public school to homeschool them. For me, that was the straw that broke the camel's back, even after the year of fighting with them through the COVID restrictions, ultimately leading to homeschool, which was never my intention. But for my family, it was the right option to be able to control the upbringing and direction of their education. But not every family will be able to do the same, and this is why this legislation is so important. Ensuring transparency in our children's curriculum and building back trust where it has been so terribly broken. School boards have been left unchecked for too long, but now we're paying attention and we're taking them back. And thank you, Governor DeSantis, for your bold and fearless leadership, not only in education, but throughout the state.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, Alicia Farrant.
Good morning. Thank you, Governor DeSantis, for giving me this great opportunity. My name is Alicia Ferrant. I am a mother of 5 children, all of whom are in public school here in Florida. Recently, I discovered one of the most disturbing pornographic books in my child's high school in Orange County. After some research, I learned that an alarming percentage of high school and middle school library books contain similar material, not just in Orange County, but all over our nation. I knew I could not remain silent, so I partnered with my friend, Jacob Engels, who is part of the LGB community and also a reporter, who helped me expose the book at one of our school board meetings in Orange County. Jacob read a segment of the book out loud during the meeting in order to make the community aware of the type of reading material our children are having access to. He was abruptly removed from the meeting due to the graphic content of what he read to a room full of adults. A book that was made easily accessible to our children in their school library, yet was deemed inappropriate for adults in a school board meeting. It is appalling that the removal of pornographic and sexually explicit books has even been cause for debate. I believe every student and family matters, and I also recognize that parents have a wide variety of beliefs and values, all of which deserve to be respected. However, I am absolutely an advocate for ensuring that the literature we provide our students is legal, appropriate, and worthy of being read out loud in a public forum of adults. I'm thankful for a governor who has the courage to lead with integrity and to partner with parents as we strive to raise the standard of excellence in our education system. I stand here today representing thousands of mothers and fathers who have felt voiceless. They have been faced with similar evils targeting their children, and I'm here to show that we will not cower to the divisive agendas that are infiltrating our public schools in order to corrupt and destroy the educational foundations of our great nation. Our students deserve to have high quality, academically rich books at their fingertips, and under no circumstance should they have access to graphically pornographic material at school. Today is a day to be remembered as the evidence that our voices and our prayers have been heard. This bill, HB 1467, will be a beacon for transparency. I believe it will help restore trust that has been lost and be a key component in bringing parents back into a confident partnership with their local schools. Thank you to Representative Sam Garrison and Senator Joe Gruters for sponsoring this bill. And thank you, Governor DeSantis, for being a true warrior for our state and for setting the standard for our great nation.
Okay, Representative Sam Garrison.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you, President Simpson, and on behalf of Speaker Sprouse, Speaker Designate Renner, and my House colleagues up here, we want to say thank you for your support of the legislature on this important topic. As Aubrey was mentioned, this bill is about accountability, transparency, and parental involvement. And Governor, thank you for you and the work Commissioner Corcoran has done. Those three things, accountability, transparency, and parental involvement, are hallmarks of education in the state of Florida. It's our brand. It's what we do. We care about our kids. And what we've done with teacher pay, what you've done with empowering parents and students and teachers in the classroom is a model for the nation. So thank you, Governor. Thank you, President Simpson. And thank you, everyone. As one last thing, I will say on behalf of my House colleagues, many of you who have been warriors on this issue, the term limits issue, as you mentioned, Governor, is a big deal. This is a big deal. And while it's not everything the House wanted, or maybe what you wanted, Governor, it represents a major step forward, in the issue of term limits throughout the state. Our ultimate goal, as has been stated by many, is to have term limits at every level of government here in the state of Florida, and someday, God willing, in the United States Congress. Thank you, Governor, and thank you.
Commissioner of Education, Richard Corcoran.
Thank you. It's a great day and it's a great bill, and it's got two significant components, but at the core of it, which you've heard from a lot of the speakers, is accountability, transparency, and empowering parents makes everything better. All the time. It doesn't matter what it is, it makes it better. And there's no greater accountability than telling a politician your career ends dead certain at this point in time. Having term limits for school board members is long overdue. And think about it. This is the fight that the governor's had, and I've been at it alongside of him for it. We had just this last year in the United States of America, the country with the greatest rule of law adherence ever in the history of mankind, had school board members say, yes, Governor, this is what the statute says. You're right. We don't like it. We're not following it. How can you raise your hand and swear to uphold the Constitution, summarily violate it? It just has to happen to have term limits for these school board members. It's a game changer. But the second part is even more important, and it is the year of the parent, but the real winner today, I have 6 children, I heard you had 5. The real winner today is our school children. It's our children. That's who's going to win today. And the underlying fight that he has had, and he said to our department, he said to me over and over again, what we are going to do is we're going to fight for a school system that teaches children how to think, not what to think. And if that somebody's out there saying, proselytizing, indoctrinating on what to think, we're going to stop it cold in its tracks. And this bill helps us do it by empowering parents and having real transparency and real accountability. Thank you very much, Governor.
And I would just say, you know, I'm a big believer in term limits, but you don't always even have to wait for that to attach. You can throw the bums out in the election. If they mistreated your kids, or they didn't follow the law, or they did anything, you have an opportunity. For many of them will be up for re-election. And I think that school board races typically did not get a lot of attention. People focus on some of the other more, quote, high-ticket races, but I think what we found is that those are some of the most important elections that we're able to vote on. So I think you're going to have a huge amount of voter interest in these August and then November elections for the school boards in the various counties. And, you know, my view is, if you get elected to that school board, you know, you should be conducting yourself in a way that reflects the values of the community. And I think part of the frustration that I saw with some of the stuff, you know, there's certain areas, you know, just what they're going to do. But there were some areas where what they were doing was not what the overall public and the county wanted to be done. It wasn't what the parents wanted to be done. It wasn't what the kids wanted to be done. And that, I think, is really the problem. When you run saying you're going to do certain things, acting like you're going to represent the values of the community, then you get in and you're kowtowing to special interests and you're not acting in accordance with what you said you'd do. And so those are the folks, I think, that are going to be very vulnerable in the elections coming up. And I don't know that I've ever got involved in school board races before, but we'll be involved this year. We want to help people who are going to help our kids. All right, we're going to do this. Today's the 25th, right?
Yes.
Everyone crowded around to be here. So, giving you guys a piece of history. That's why I got to do it this way.